Would have been a perennial NBA All-Star. Perennial NBA All-Star. He was 6'3" with bounce, mid-range, three-pointer, a dog on defense. Like, Jason Williams would have been a problem in the NBA.
There's not many point guards who had a better college career than Jay Williams. He is a Duke and NCAA legend and showed he could do it all during his 3-year run. He had a super quick first step and a great mixture of strength and athleticism. He could finish at the rim or pull up from range, but he also had court vision and could make bullet passes. But with that being said, he could be overly aggressive at times, forcing shots and passes, and definitely struggled at the free throw line. But you'd rather your star be over-aggressive than under-aggressive. He went from National High School Player of the Year to one of the few freshman point guards to start under Coach K. By his sophomore season, he was a star and cemented himself with a dominant tournament run en route to a national championship. He left for the NBA after his junior year and was drafted by the Chicago Bulls as a player who was supposed to lead them out of the dark days since Michael Jordan's retirement. He had an up and down rookie campaign, but you could only imagine what the next 10 plus years could be like. But no one imagined a horrible motorcycle accident stealing the potential great career from the young guard. But that's what happened, as he only played one NBA season. And even though there's no way to know what Jay Williams could have become, he was the complete package at Duke and had the drive to be the best. And that's usually a recipe for success. Let's jog your memory. A New Jersey native, Jason J. Williams attended St. Joseph's High School, where he was the model of a student athlete. Obviously, basketball was his calling, but Williams would excel in other sports such as volleyball, helping lead St. Joe's to the state semifinals as a senior. He was reportedly an avid chess player as well, but it was also in the classroom that Williams was a star, as he would finish high school with a 3.6 GPA, receive multiple literary awards, and became a member of St. Joseph's National Honor Society. But once he stepped on the basketball court, he really set himself apart. But it wouldn't be until later in his high school career that he would say he started getting attention, as during his underclassmen years, he wouldn't get invited to the prestigious camps. But he would be a 4-year starter for the Falcons, where during that time he would lead the team to back-to-back South State Final championships as a junior and senior. And when he finished his high school career, he was the school's all-time leading scorer with 1,993 points. His great senior season had seen him average 19 points, 7 assists, 4.2 rebounds, and 3.7 steals per game, as he would be named first-team All-State, a Parade first-team All-American, USA Today first-team All-American, and a McDonald's All-American, and would even be the recipient of the 1999 Morgan Wooten Award for nation's top high school player. And Williams would not only participate in the McDonald's All-American game, scoring 20 points, but he would also appear in the McDonald's Slam Dunk Contest, where he was leading until he injured his arm on his third dunk and had to withdraw. And on top of his individual performances, most importantly for a point guard is that Williams was known around the school by everyone and would go out of his way to make anyone feel comfortable, as he would pride himself on being a leader. But his athletic achievements, coupled with his academic achievements, made him a perfect candidate for the Duke Blue Devils. And going into his 2000 freshman season, Williams would be playing for Coach K. And Williams wasn't just playing at Duke, he was starting, as he was only the third freshman to start at point guard for Coach K. But Williams didn't play like a freshman. Duke was in an interesting position. They were coming off a national championship game appearance where they had lost to UConn, so you'd think they'd be the favorite to win this year. But their top 4 players from last year had left for the NBA, so they were a much different looking team. This season they would be led by junior forward Shane Battier and senior Chris Carrawell, and even though they had lost a lot of talent, they were also bringing a lot in, as along with Williams, the Blue Devils welcomed 2 more eventual NBA-bound recruits in Carlos Boozer and Mike Dunleavy Jr. And even as a freshman, Williams had a huge impact, as he would finish the season as the team's 3rd leading scorer while leading the team in assists and steals, and would be named All-Freshman and 3rd team All-Conference by season's end. But the season didn't start well, as the Blue Devils began the year ranked in the top 10, but would lose to 13th ranked Stanford, then top ranked Connecticut in their first 2 games. But after that they went on a tear, winning 18 straight before losing at home to Maryland. They would then win their next 4 to rank as high as number 2 in the nation, but a late season loss to unranked St. John's dropped them to number 4, and they would stay there until they ended the regular season at 24-4. Duke would have a great ACC tournament, as they would defeat Clemson in the quarterfinals, then Wake Forest in the semis, to set up a championship matchup with Maryland, who they would defeat easily to win the ACC title, with Williams being named tournament MVP, as Duke would get an automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. The top-seeded Blue Devils would take on Lamar in round 1, in what would be an easy win, as Williams had a great tournament debut. with a team-high 18 points on 7 of 11 shooting to go along with 4 rebounds, 7 assists, and 2 steals. Round 2 would be a much closer game versus Kansas, as Williams had one of his worst career games. He would have just 6 points on 2 of 15 shooting, including going 0 for 7 from deep and committing 8 turnovers. But he did add 9 rebounds, 6 assists, and 4 steals, as Duke was able to survive and advance to the Sweet 16 versus Florida. But this is where their tournament would end. Williams would again struggle as he finished with 13 points on 30% shooting, including going 1 of 9 from deep, before fouling out late in a 9-point loss. But his overall freshman season had seen him average about 14.5 points, 6.5 assists, and 2.5 steals per game. Williams took a huge jump as a sophomore. They had lost Carrawell to graduation, but would welcome freshman Chris Duhon, as aside from the Carrawell loss, they were returning all of their top players. Williams would up his scoring significantly to lead the team in that category, along with assists and steals, as he would lead the ACC in scoring and finish second in assists. He would also show his range, as his 132 made threes were tops in the ACC, and he shot nearly 43% from deep. But he wasn't perfect, as his career-high 154 turnovers would also lead the conference. But overall, it was a lot more good than bad, as he would be voted first-team All-Conference, a consensus first-team All-American, and the NABC Player of the Year for a Blue Devils team who had began the season ranked number 2 in the nation. They would start the year at 10-0 and rank as high as number 1, before losing to number 3 Stanford. After this, they would win 9 straight, with the 9th win on January 27th being a signature moment in Williams' Duke career. Number 2 Duke came to Cole Fieldhouse to take on the 8th-ranked Terrapins, and Williams was playing horribly. With about 11 minutes left in the game, he had 8 points on 3 of 7 shooting and 10 turnovers, when Coach K would take him out in hopes he'd regroup, but when he came back in, he would miss a contested 3 and a critical free throw. Terps guard Steve Blake had Williams' number all game, but he had fouled out with about 2 minutes left. Yet now with less than a minute left, Maryland was up 90-80, so the game looked all but over. But then during a timeout, Williams would say he heard the crowd chanting overrated, and that motivated him. And now without Blake on him, Williams was able to drive for an easy layup, then almost immediately stripped the ball and retreated beyond the arc to make a 3 and cut the lead to 5, while less than 6 seconds had come off the clock. Then after Maryland missed 2 free throws, Williams drained another 3 to cut the lead to 2 with about 40 seconds left. And then Nate James would sink 2 free throws to tie the game, as eventually it went to overtime. Williams would hit 2 early free throws in the extra period to give the Blue Devils the lead, and they would never look back, as a last-second Shane Battier block would seal the comeback. But that may have taken a lot out of Duke, as they would lose to North Carolina in their next game, and overall, following the Maryland win, they would go just 7-3 the rest of the season, to finish at 26-4. The conference tournament would bring NC State in the quarterfinals, who Duke would defeat easily, and then they would outlast Maryland in the semifinals after a last-second Nate James tip-in. The finals brought UNC, and Duke would avenge their loss with a convincing 26-point win to secure another ACC title, as they were again entering the tournament as a 1 seed, and Williams would go on a tear. An easy first-round defeat of Monmouth would see Williams finish with 22 points and 4 assists while going 6 of 10 from deep. Then round 2 versus Missouri was even better, as Williams would put up 31 points on 55% shooting while draining 5 more threes and adding 9 assists in another win, as Duke was set to take on UCLA in the Sweet 16. Duke was up by 7 at halftime, but then shortly after the second half began, Williams would completely take over, scoring 17 straight points over the next 5 minutes to give Duke a 10-point lead, as he would ultimately finish with a tournament career-high 34 points, along with 3 steals in another win. The Elite 8 would bring USC, and Williams continued his high scoring. However, his efficiency took a hit for the remainder of the tournament, as although he finished with 28 points, he shot just 10 of 26 from the field, yet did add 7 rebounds and 6 assists. But Duke won to punch their ticket to the Final Four, and another matchup with Maryland. The Blue Devils looked doomed, as they would fall behind by as many as 22 points in the first half. They would cut the deficit to 11 by halftime, and would continue fighting, as the second half saw them outscore Maryland by 22 to win the game by 11, as their 22-point comeback was the largest in Final Four history, with Williams ending with 23 points and 4 assists on about 37% shooting, as they were now 1 win away from a national championship, with only Arizona standing in their way. This would be Williams' worst game of the tournament, as he would get into early foul trouble and never really be able to get anything going due to this, as he would have 16 points on 5 of 15 shooting, along with 6 turnovers. but Duke was able to pull away near the end, and Williams would be the one to hit the dagger, as with less than 2 minutes left, he hit a 3 to put Duke up by 8, as Duke ended up winning by 10, and now Williams and the Blue Devils were national champions. And Williams' sophomore season had seen him average about 21.5 points, 6 assists, and 2 steals per game. Duke was primed to repeat in 2002. They no longer featured Battier, but they were now adding junior transfer Dante Jones and freshman guard Daniel Ewing. Their 99 freshman recruiting trio would lead the team this year, as the three combined to average nearly 57 points per game, with Williams again leading the team and conference in scoring. However, Williams would drop to second on the team in assists and steals, as now Duhon was starting alongside him in the backcourt, so he would spend more time playing shooting guard. Nonetheless, Williams would again be named first team all-conference, a consensus first team All-American, and NABC Player of the Year. Duke would begin the year ranked number 1 and would win their first 12 games, and in that period, Williams had one of his greatest performances in a December 18th overtime win versus number 7 Kentucky in the Jimmy V Classic. Kentucky had gone up by as much as 12 in the second half, and Coach K would bench his starters to send a message, and when they came back in, it was obvious that the message had been loud and clear, and Williams would lead a 14-4 run with 11 points of his own, as ultimately Duke would win by 3 in overtime, and Williams had finished with a career-high 38 points on 12 of 21 shooting, while going 7 of 10 from deep. Duke would lose to unranked Florida State to fall to 12-1 before winning 10 straight, but they would go just 3-2 in the final 5 games of the year to end the regular season at 26-3. Williams had never lost in the ACC tournament, and that wouldn't change this year, as Duke would defeat North Carolina convincingly in the quarterfinals, and then Wake Forest in the semifinals, before dismantling NC State in the finals to win another ACC championship, as they were again entering the NCAA tournament as a 1 seed. Round 1 wouldn't even be a challenge versus Winthrop, as Williams only needed to play 20 minutes, yet would still finish with 19 points, 5 assists, and 4 steals, as Duke advanced to a second-round matchup with Notre Dame. This would be a closer game, yet Duke would get the win, as although Williams shot below 28%, he would still finish with a team-high 18 points, along with 6 assists and 3 steals. The Sweet 16 brought Indiana, and Duke would have a double-digit lead by halftime, but Indiana would claw back and were eventually up by 4, as Duke had possession with about 10 seconds left. But then an offensive rebound found its way to Williams.
4-point game, Ewing fires the 3. Not there, Williams looks for the 3. Oh, he scores and he's fouled!
Williams had hit the 3 and had been fouled, as he was currently a hero and only had to hit a free throw to likely send the game to overtime. But if Williams had one kryptonite, it was his free throws, and he would miss the game-tying shot. And even though Boozer got the offensive rebound, he would miss as well, as Duke would lose the game, with Williams finishing with 15 points on 6 of 19 shooting and missing his only free throw attempt. But his junior season had seen him average about 21.5 points, 5.5 assists, and 2 steals per game. Williams was considered the best player in college basketball and would decide to forego his senior season to enter the 2002 NBA draft, where he was expected to be off the board within the first 2 picks, as the only thing standing between him and the first overall pick was a 7'6" giant from China.
The Chicago Bulls select Jay Williams from Duke University.
So with Yao going first overall, the Chicago Bulls took Williams second. The Bulls were still reeling after Michael Jordan's retirement just a few years earlier. They had promising young talent in their big man duo of Tyson Chandler and Eddie Curry, and had a third-year guard in Jamal Crawford. It was hoped Williams could immediately take over the point guard position and use his great leadership to help create a cohesive unit in Chicago. But Williams would have an interesting rookie season. He would begin the year as a starter, but even prior to the season starting, he was criticizing the Bulls' offense in preseason. Then Williams was criticized by veteran teammate Jalen Rose for missing 4 late-game free throws in their season-opening win versus Boston. Williams would start 51 of his first 55 games, but in that time he would really struggle with his efficiency, shooting about 37% from the field, and had an especially rough January, as he missed time due to injury for the first time in his career and couldn't even buy a bucket when he did play, as Williams' mental fortitude was coming into question. And in early March, he would make a trade reference and suggest that there was a rift between the players and coaches. And while Rose denied that, there had been reports that as Williams and Crawford battled for playing time, tensions rose in the locker room. And after these comments, Williams would mainly come off the bench for the rest of the season. So it was a tumultuous year, but it wasn't all bad, as Williams would still hit double figures in 36 games and have his best career game on November 9th in a win versus Jason Kidd and the Nets, as Williams recorded his only career triple-double on career-high marks of 26 points, 14 rebounds, and 13 assists, and overall he would lead all rookies in assists, while earning a second-team All-Rookie selection. But a dysfunctional Bulls team went 30-52 and missed the playoffs, as Williams had averaged about 9.5 points, 2.5 rebounds, and 4.5 assists per game. But just a couple months after his season ended, Williams' life was changed forever. On the night of June 19, 2003, Williams crashed his motorcycle into a street light on the north side of Chicago. He was rushed to the hospital in critical condition, where it was determined he had sustained a severed nerve in his leg, a fractured pelvis, and tore 3 knee ligaments, including his ACL. Luckily, he would survive the accident, but he shouldn't even have been in that position, as on top of this violating the terms of his contract, Williams wasn't licensed to be driving the motorcycle in Illinois, nor was he wearing a helmet, so he was just lucky to be alive. Due to the injury, the Bulls would select Kansas point guard Kirk Hinrich in the draft just days later, as at the very least, Williams was out for the season. But then when the Bulls learned that Williams would need extensive physical therapy just to regain the use of his leg, they would release him in mid-February, but they would buy out his contract, so he could afford the lengthy rehab. Williams had a long road ahead of him, which he would say in later years led him to a very dark place, understandably, as he had gone from the top of the world to rock bottom in just a year and a half. But luckily he wouldn't succumb and would work his way back to get one more chance. Williams spent years recovering, and in late September of 2006, he would sign with the New Jersey Nets, but he was considered a long shot to make the team. However, he felt he still had value, with an ability as a passer, and now possessed a self-proclaimed improved jump shot. And he would get some preseason run, and that in and of itself is incredible, as he returned to an NBA court, but that would be as close as he got, as New Jersey released him just days before the season. He would then sign on to play in the D-League, appearing in 3 games for the Austin Toros, before being released due to injury and ending his playing career, before transitioning to a broadcasting career, which coincidentally was what he said he wanted to do way back in 1999. So at least that worked out. Derrick Rose is the big point guard what if in Chicago Bulls history, but Jay Williams is another huge question mark. He didn't have an incredible rookie year, and it wasn't without its drama, but he showed flashes and could have easily matured and improved to be the type of player he was for Duke. And the player he was for Duke was nothing short of incredible. Not only is he one of the best Duke point guards of all time, he's one of the best NCAA point guards of all time. There were few holes in his game, and he excited fans for 3 years with his aggressive, unforgiving play. He could score and pass, and take over a game when he needed to. He was a good defender, and most importantly a leader, but his underwhelming and short NBA career occasionally leaves him as a victim to recency bias. But you can't evaluate someone on 1 year. And if anything, you should judge Jay Williams on his time as a Duke Blue Devil, where he was one of the best. But that's it for today's episode on Jay Williams. Hope you enjoyed it, and make sure to subscribe for more videos like this. If you liked it, check out this one on one of his 02 draft mates, or this one on one of his Chicago Bulls teammates. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.